Good afternoon. While we get started here, I'm going to launch a poll real quick and see how we do on this. So here we go. Welcome to APA's weekly webinar. My name is Billy Zidek, Manager, Special Projects for APA. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. The webinar recording will be posted to the APA webpage later this afternoon. You'll receive a follow-up email in the next couple of days with a link to the webpage where all webinar recordings are housed, as well as a link to our upcoming webinars. We have webinars planned out through the end of 2021, and many are open for registration. Professional continuing education credits and AIA CLUs are being offered for today's program. If you are an AIA professional requiring a certificate, please send an email to me at Billie, B-I-L-L-I-E, @apa.org, along with your AIA membership number if you have not done so in the past. We are also offering ICC credits. Please contact Kathy Tabor for more information. All attendees are in listen-only mode. Please type your questions in the chat box and they will be answered in the order they are received. If we run out of time and we still have questions, responses will be sent directly to the person asking the question by one of our presenters. I would like to acknowledge all of the hardworking people in facilities management. Yesterday was World FM 2021. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Kathy Tabor, who will introduce our presenters. Kathy, take it away and I'll close the poll.
Okay, thanks, Billy. Hi, you're listening to Kathy Tabor from the Center for Campus Fire Safety. I just want to reiterate on what Billy said. If you need an ICC recertification CEU, just email me at supportteam@campusfiresafety.org. This webinar is hosted by APA and CCFS and presented by both Alive Tech and Montclair University. CCFS has been dedicated to campus fire safety since our beginnings in 1999. We're governed by a 12-person board of directors, and they're located nationwide. The majority of our board are fire marshals on college campuses, fire safety educators and inspectors, and some members of the board are internationally known industry leaders. We offer several virtual training programs and campus fire safety officials for campus fire safety officials and emergency responders. And now to introduce our presenters, Sandy Mills Alford is an e-learning consultant and implementation specialist. She's the CEO of Alive Tech, Inc., and she leads a team of web developers and instructional designers to help universities and corporations distribute and measure online learning. John Keene is a fire safety specialist at Montclair State University and is also a firefighter training officer at the Lyndhurst Fire Department. Chief Robert, we call him Bob Ferreira, is the Director of Fire Safety for Montclair University, where he's responsible for all aspects of life safety throughout the university. Chief Ferreira is also a member of the CCFS Board of Directors. Now, I'm going to stop talking and I'll turn it over to the presentation team.
Hi, how's everyone doing? With this, we're going to go over our process of online fire safety education during the pandemic. Obviously, it was a trying year due to the COVID restrictions. We went from in-person training to online learning. We needed to try to figure out how to deliver that online training to our students. We were faced with the difficulty of not doing the traditional face-to-face learning. With our usual trainings, we develop educational programs on basic fire safety concepts through our department's policies and procedures that we distribute on campus, the Department of Residence Life policies on campus that coincide with our policies. And with that, up-to-date and accurate evacuation plans for each residence hall.
So we'd like you to participate in 2 more poll questions right here. The first one is going to be, how do you do fire safety training during the school year? We'll give you about 30 seconds to answer, and then we'll go into the next poll question. We're going to share all of these, all of this data with you. Okay, great. And the next poll question is, there we go. What percentage of your student population returned to campus? No, that was the first one. Oh. Did you already take that one? There we go. Did you have fire drills in light of the pandemic? At the end of this presentation, we will share some information with you, and the poll results will be part of that. Okay, great. Thank you for that. There we go. So what was the solution, guys?
Solution that was teaming up with a live tech when we were dealing with trying to find who can deliver this type of online training platform. Bobby introduced me to Sandy and a live tech through seminars that he was present at, and then introduced me to Sandy. And after we kind of saw what they were able to develop, we came up with a customizable online fire safety program that's actually tailored to our needs, specific needs, our evacuation routes for each building on campus that the students reside in, as well as uploading policies that each student had to sign off on. They acknowledged, read the policies and the procedures and conducted the training. So with that, it was very helpful that it was not just a simplified general fire safety training. It was actually tailored to our needs.
Next slide. So the Campus Fire Safety Be Fire Smart College Student Edition is an interactive online awareness and prevention course. It's about 30 minutes long. It's built with multimedia, and we did it in partnership with the center. So all of the content and all of the key concepts were actually provided by fire safety experts from the center. So it's a great course. And the next slide, we are happy to show it to you today. We're going to, first of all, we're going to show you a little commercial that gives an overview of the course that isn't customized. We can't hear the audio. Is it coming through on your computer?
Yes, it is.
Okay, your volume's up. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. We will be sure to give you the link to this commercial as a follow-up to today's webinar. So now you're getting the quiet version. Okay. Very good. It's a great commercial.
Everywhere at any time. For more information about this course, contact us today.
Okay, great.
When I first saw this course at the last fire forum, it was actually a live. That was actually, we had in-person learning. It was prior to COVID and prior to thinking that we ever had to do an online all remote training. As soon as we started hitting our COVID back in August, September, coming around with this COVID things, and I reached out to Sandy and saying, hey, can we customize it? Is it playing in the background?
No, there's just a little bit of lag, I think, with your audio.
Okay. So we were able to team up, like John was saying, with the live tech and put together a team and in a very, very fast turnaround, be able to customize the program to actually be a one-on-one training program specifically for the campus, our buildings, our students. We did a demo on it with our resident students, our RAs, and summer students that were living on campus, and actually had it field tested prior to us even, thinking about it and saying, hey, is this something that you guys like? Coming from the actual resident that was living on campus at the time, and it was overwhelmingly accepted by them, better than the in-person training. Sorry, John, go ahead.
So what's important to know about what they did at Montclair State is students actually entered their LMS, which is called Canvas. And once they entered into Canvas, they were able to track their students' progress, even though, they were able to track their students' progress and to measure their completion. And I believe you told me, but could you repeat, John, what you required them to do the training in order to get their room assignment? Is that what you did?
Initially, due to the pandemic hitting us very, very rapidly and coming up with solutions to present a quick turnaround, initially it wasn't a requirement, but we did, after this, seeing the successes of this online course throughout the course of this year, we were able to speak to Residence Life that they want to add this as an implementation as a required training before they get their room assignments, they get their keys, or they have to conduct the course and complete it and show that they completed before they move in.
And so those components that were measured, what we wanted to make sure that they saw the presentation, that they reviewed and affirmed that they knew the policies, they reviewed and they affirmed that they looked at their particular escape route for their building. Then they were given a quiz, they participated in a survey, and then they were also awarded a certificate of completion. Let's go ahead and pop into the course and have a little look around. Shall we, Cassandra? Very good. So as part of the process, they were to view a course presentation. And let's just pop that up if you don't mind really quickly. Hopefully you can have a better audio. We can hear audio this time.
Can you hear the audio that's coming through?
No.
It's playing.
Okay. We can just click through it and I can talk to some of these screens. The very first activity is a fast-paced, they must think quickly activity. Go ahead and start it. Let's see how quickly you can think. Cassandra, as our Vanna White today. We start the clock and we want them to select the things that they should do once they smell smoke in their home. And so they have to very quickly make the decision. And the goal is to get all 5. And so we can allow them to try again until they get all 5 correct answers. And the purpose of this activity is to get them to think quickly, because we know in the case of emergency, we have to think quickly. So many people will look for that fire extinguisher. We don't want them to do that in most cases. So many people will go to grab their belongings and we don't want them to do that. But we do want them to remain calm, feel if the door is hot, cover their mouth, alert others by shouting fire, and exit quickly. So all the other items were distractors that we did not want them to choose. And we wanted them to know that they don't look for your belongings. So from this activity, it continues on with a narrated presentation that allows them in almost a video way, kind of, I call it edutainment way. They are whisked through all of the content that they need to know. We talk a little bit about past fires and why they need to pay attention to the presentation. And in general, we just follow the center's framework for student fire safety education. It's a very good course. We will be happy to give you free access to the course so you can check it out. So I would encourage you to do it yourself and find out just how interactive and engaging it is. I think that's pretty good for now, Cassandra. Thank you. Once they do the presentation, then we ask them to take a quiz. That quiz asks them, I think, 10 questions, and they must pass it to move on. And then we move them into, okay, you can show the quiz. And then we move them into a Montclair, after the quiz, we move them into a Montclair specific presentation. And so this is the customized part of it. And this presentation is put together, collaboratively. And we want them to know everything about what it's like through residence life, their inspection policy, the housing escape plans. We quiz them again to make sure that they really truly read the escape route plan and they understand the inspection policy. Then we walk them through the items not permitted in residence rooms, and we give them a quick little quiz again to make sure that they're paying attention and they are affirming that they've read all of this information. Did you want to say anything about this, Bobby or John?
Yeah. I've been doing the training now for 18 years on a campus setting. And to be honest, we try to do our best educating 3,000 students at a time in an auditorium, bringing in presenters, going over our policies and procedures, and then later on sitting down at their dorm rooms and going, anywhere from 50 people in a room trying to go over their exit routes, going over their training. And if you're honest with yourself, you know that a quarter of them are listening to you. We know that they're listening, they're reading it. It's a lot faster than a 45-minute or an hour and a half presentation. Studies have shown that the faster the training, the more they're absorbing it. We have actual written documentation now that they actually read the program, they answered the test questions, and it's actual data that we have that we can really say that if there was an accident, that this person did have training. He did sign off that he did read all these bullet points that we put out about their evacuation routes, about the training, about what they do, what they should or should not have in their resident hall. We put this by our state. We're governed by the State Fire Marshal's Office, and they were all in favor of this type of training that we're doing. It does meet our state codes. So, and again, it was adopted. Our Residence Life does. They do embrace this type of training. It frees up a lot of training time. There's a lot of training going on nowadays. And now with the new COVID restrictions and the new COVID, we don't even know what it's going to be like next semester with the amount of new COVID trainings that they're going to have to go through. We don't even know yet. So we're real excited about next semester on how we're going to enhance the program going further.
Cassandra, will you click on a quiz? And I'd like to follow up with that. You do actually have the data that supports everybody has acknowledged and read. So here's a specific example of a quiz question that is specific to Montclair State. As a resident on the campus of Montclair State, my room will be inspected twice a month by the Department of Fire Safety. And if they read, they know that that's not true. Your room will be inspected, I can't see, inspected once every other month. So we wanted them to get to the right answer, and they did. So it's reinforcing those key concepts that you want them to know that are specific to your university. And then if you close out of here, Cassandra, can you just show the affirmation? This affirmation is a policies acknowledge and agreement. And it basically has them type their name. By typing my name in the space provided, I acknowledge that I fully read, understand, and agree to the residence life inspection policy. Understand the escape route, and I fully understand the prohibited items policy. So if there's ever a question of a student saying, I didn't know I couldn't have that prohibited item, you could always go back to this as a form of documentation that they read and acknowledged that they knew what that list was. So it's just a really good way to track individuals and reinforce at their level, at their speed, at their pace, what they need to know.
John, anything?
Yeah, like Sandy was saying, the ability to timestamp everything and provide that documentation, it's amazing, because we were going based off of just regular sign-in sheets that Residence Life was holding on to in terms of signing in their room agreement. It was on paper. Sometimes it was a little bit more difficult to track. Through Canvas, we had that ability to pull that up instantaneously. And in a little bit, you'll see how we actually kept track of the data. It does require a little bit of coordination between our campus team, Residence Life, to make sure that the student rosters who are living on campus are constantly updated. But we did run into that little bit of a difficulty trying to identify which students had left due to they were taking all online courses and they decided not to live on campus anymore. So that did kind of influx the numbers a little bit, but it was proportionally accurate.
Yeah, our policies were changing day by day, like I'm sure it was everybody else in the college world. People were changing their mind daily if they were staying on campus or they were going home. So our roster started at 4,000 people on campus, down to 3,000 people, down to 2,800, and we were down to 2,000 or under at one point. So our rosters were very high, and people were showing that our rate of the taking the test or taking the program was we're missing so many people, and then going through the data, it's like, oh, they left campus already. So that was the struggle this year. It was just because they were leaving campus, or they chose to out of housing so quickly, and we just couldn't keep up with it. But hopefully going forward, that's not going to be the case. And like I said, we're going to be pushing this forward a lot more sooner, and being part of the housing agreement, it's going to be before they even accept housing. So they'll already have it done.
And so we do have data on how well we believe it worked based on the students' responses to the final survey. And Cassandra, so you don't have to flip back to that slide, It was 88%. Can you just read that slide for us? 88% acknowledge that they learned something. Okay, she's going to go back to the slide. All right, 88% of the participants increased their awareness of fire safety. 87% of them felt better equipped to handle a fire safety situation, and 86% of the participants feel like they're more inclined to prevent fires. So those are some pretty high statistics, and we're really happy with those results. I skipped a couple of slides jumping ahead, I'm sorry. So let's just keep talking about the survey and then we'll go back and make sure we covered everything before that. So if you could take us to the survey, I'd like everyone to see some of the survey questions. And then my favorite one, of course. So using the learning management system, we are able to see real-time data on these surveys. The surveys are anonymous, but they were tracked as either complete or incomplete. In this case, the course was only given to on-campus students, so obviously the majority of the people indicated they were on campus. You can see that a high percentage of them were first-year students compared to the other years, and that's indicative of your resident students. We wanted to know who was an international student. I'm not sure why you wanted to know that. Why did you want to know that, guys?
We wanted to know that because we do have an usual high influx of students that study abroad with us, just in case we had to look into potential language barriers of how to we can modify that for Spanish speaking, Asian speaking, of any Chinese, Cantonese, because those are our highest percentages of international students.
Okay, great. And what was the percentage? Cassandra, could you mouse over it, please? It looks like 2.5%.
And
So
due to
that might be
COVID restrictions.
lower than you thought.
Yeah.
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 Okay, keep scrolling, please. We were curious to find out when they had received formal fire safety education. You know, we know that usually there's an elementary school program that's fairly formal and sometimes takes the course of several weeks. But we weren't quite sure if they actually got it in middle school, and we weren't quite sure if they got it in high school. But we're finding out, according to these students, they feel like they've had formal fire safety training. Now, a newer, I want to say a newer response to this question indicated more than just fire drills. So beyond fire drills. And so it'll be interesting to see what that data shows, because we want to know if they're counting fire drills as formal fire and safety education or not. And in the last year, we wanted to know if they had any training. And in Montclair State's case, they made them repeat part of the training for both semesters to make sure that they were reviewing their escape routes. So in this case, we have a very high percentage of people that say, yes, I did have training, and it was this course. And we wanted to know if their RA staff, they remembered their RA staff giving the training. We wanted to know if they saw the fire safety poster. We wanted to know if there were any fire safety experts talking to them. So there's a wide variety of education going on at Montclair State, and the students are supporting that with this data. And then,
Yeah, so we also require the students to, anytime they move rooms, they got to be retrained on a new exit and emergency route. So that's why we require them to do retraining. And then we could also track the RAs, the resident assistants, on their required training that they're supposed to be delivering now, so we could find out from the actual student, are they delivering the training aspect that they're supposed to do. So it's actually helps us out a lot and giving us a little bit more data than just what we think we're getting.
great. And you can keep going, pretty please, Cassandra. This was at 88%. This was at 87%. And this was at 86%. Oh, wait. Go back up to that one. I don't think we talked about that one. There we go. As a direct result of taking this course, I am more confident in my ability to safely exit the building in the case of a fire. This is a statistic that I love to see personally. If we add the strongly agree and agree together, Cassandra, what do we get? We have 50%, almost 55%, and then almost 35%. So another 85, 86% of the students indicated they are more confident in their ability to safely exit the building. The fact that we have neutrals, disagrees, and strongly agrees just really kind of affirms that this is a pretty valid survey, because we always know that some students are gonna either not read what they're checking and just, you know, click the radio buttons, or some students will just be some students. So we know that we had real life students answering this question by the fact that there's disagrees and strongly disagrees in here. And the next question, this is my favorite question, and this is the question that makes it all worth it to us. Imagine you awake to a fire alarm, someone yelling fire, or the smell of smoke. Your hallway is dark from smoke. Now imagine getting out of the building as quickly as you can. Can you clearly visualize your escape route in your mind? And what makes me happy is that 95% of them said yes. If they said unsure or no to this, and they were serious about that, hopefully they went back and reviewed their escape route. And we wanted to add a cooking question. What does that question say? There is a header response, I think, but that's okay. So we have a question about cooking. Oh, what is it, Cassandra?
It's if at any point any of these are okay to do, basically.
Okay, so we're asking them if they should ever cook while they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And you know, you can see most of them are agreeing they shouldn't probably be doing that. And you can scroll through these fairly quickly. Cigarettes or other types of smoking where prohibited, you should never do it. Using unauthorized cooking or hot beverage devices, they're like, nope, you should never do it. And using a space heater where prohibited, never do it, 98%. So we're just reinforcing some of the rules, and we're getting them to affirm that they believe in these rules through the use of this survey. That's great. And then we wanted to know if they had ever experienced a fire in their home, and 11% said yes. So, you know, you have 11% of your Montclair students who are saying they've had a fire in their home. That sounds kind of high to me, but that does make it all very much real to especially those students. And do you know someone who personally has experienced a fire in their home? And that's much higher, that's 49%. So half of your students at Montclair State know somebody who had a fire in their home. I think what that tells us is we can build on their empathy when we do future training, and they can relate to what we're saying about, you know, fire is serious business. And how did we end this survey? That was it? Okay, good. Thank you, Cassandra. If there's any way you could revisit the slides that I skipped, sorry, Montclair State. There we go. Let's talk about implementation, Bobby and John.
So during the pandemic, fall 2020, we were, like we said, we were in a bit of a time crunch because the policies and the restrictions on campus were constantly changing, to the point we went from 8,000 students that on a normal basis, they reside on campus at 3,000. So when we teamed up with Sandy, we launched this through our LMS Canvas. The Canvas support team was very, very, very responsive, and was more than willing to help to get this through. With that, we teamed up also with our residence life and community directors to kind of help remind the student population of the course, whether it was through community email bursts, notifying the CDs and the RAs to add it to their agenda in the floor meetings. Campus communications helped us push the memo out on their to-do list. so to say. And then we just sent out notifications that required the residents to take the course before a certain due date, just to meet that 10-day training requirement in light of we had no fire drills this year. So within that 10-day time frame is what our goal was. Next slide, please. So when we implemented this, like we said, this allowed us to view who completed the course on time, and as you can see below, anything that was within that green bar within that parameter, those were the students that got it on time. And then we were actually surprised on the first pilot program how high that was, and considering the fact that we did lose students over the course of the year through them canceling their housing because they were all online. So what's the reason for staying in a dormitory if you're online, if your courses are mostly online? So after we crunched the numbers a little bit and determined who canceled their housing, this data turned out to be a lot more accurate than we thought. And the students that either did not complete the course or completed the course late, we were able to identify through our Canvas list who those exact students were and report them to Residence Life in terms of the conduct process, and we took it from there.
Yeah, again, like I said, even though we had people that were missing the training, overall, we know we hit 100% more people than we do with in-person training. You know, we really are standing by this type of training going forward. We definitely have the buy-in from our Residence Life staff. The data is definitely showing it. You know that it's gonna work going forward.
Yeah, and just a review of the timeline here. We started the conversations in July because that's when a lot of the policies and COVID guidelines were coming out in terms of how we were going to adjust the campus. Then we started Zoom meetings in late July and had literally a 2 to 3 week turnaround of actually testing the course out, implementing it throughout August, to the point from late July to August 18th was actually the physical date we launched the course. They had a September 4th due date because we actually started the fall semester a little bit early this year. And we continued conversations back in January to where we found our little glitches, where areas to improve. And thankfully it was highly successful.
And so we did have technology glitches at the beginning. You know, technology is going to be one of those things that sometimes fails, but luckily and gratefully, Montclair State had a great LMS team and a great technical team, along with a LiveText technical team. We figured out where the problems were, and we were able to bridge those gaps and give them the support that they needed. For example, one of the issues was pop-up blocking was occurring, and students didn't know that. So we beefed up our help desk, and we beefed up our directions, and we fixed a few technical glitches, and it was smooth sailing after that. I was going to ask a question. I put it in here as a bullet to ask the guys from Montclair State. Do you think overall, John, I mean, I know this was a lot of work to implement, and you had to do, you know, a lot of communication with Residence Life and other people, the Canvas team. But if you were to like kind of talk about your level of effort over last year after, you know, the whole school year, both fall and winter implementations, was it more or less work than face-to-face?
You know, it's funny. I'd say about equal. I would actually have to say. I mean, we were so used to a platform of being in person, and that did, because we used to have trainings that were throughout the course of a whole day that was coordinated through our local fire academies. We used to take the RAs and train them. That was a lot of coordination. But I personally think by the amount of coordination between the 3 individual departments, IT, Live Tech, it was roughly about the same. It was just it was different, and given the time that we had to kind of crunch this in and present the student population something, and I'll fully admit I'm not the most tech savvy individual in the world, but other than that, the hardest part was just every day keeping track of the numbers that were coming in terms of completions, and online professors. I definitely give them a little bit more respect after dealing with that, because it's tedious, but it wasn't, I don't think, as difficult as I imagined.
Yeah, but a lot of the problem with the data was we didn't realize at first of the dropout rate of the students. So most of the data we were chasing was how come we don't have a higher percentage rate of completion, to find out that, well, 200 kids left campus yesterday and they didn't even process them yet. So they're still in Canvas, they're still showing. So it was just, they were not geared up for that big of a dropout rate. You know, as soon as they gave a professor the choice of, do you want to do online or do in person? Well, they chose online. Boom, you know, that whole class dropped out. So if the students was 3 out of 4 classes were online and they live 20 miles from campus, their choice was stay home and commute, or even if it was a one day a week and they had to drive 40 miles.
So some of the time, in other words, was because of the pandemic.
Yeah, it was a lot. I think a lot of the data driven was pandemic related, where our systems weren't used to that dropout rate. You never drop out of housing. Right. So you lost housing. That was it. But we had to fluctuate our return policy. We were giving back housing up until weeks ago, because 3 weeks before school starts, if you drop out, you weren't allowed to drop out of housing. And that was everything. That was only housing. That was parking. That was, that was commuting students. So it was like not only the housing student, it was our parking services. So it was the entire system on campus for parking services, housing services, dining services. So it was all these rebates that were being given out. So it wasn't just resident halls and that it was a lot more commuting people that we weren't having on campus. So it was a lot more than the 5,000 resident students or 7,000 resident students. It was 20,000 on campus commuting students that we have.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully you'll get that return on investment.
To reiterate the point, as soon as campus opened, when we were looking into the numbers, we didn't realize that it was such a tremendous skyrocketing rate of leaving campus that it would took like an extra day or 2 for residents like to process in order who is actually leaving campus and canceling their housing. So by the time we got that information, it was a bit of a process.
Yeah.
Sure. So hopefully now this will be your 3rd semester of implementing it for fall 2021. Hopefully a lot of those glitches won't be part of it anymore. The high dropout rate.
Oh, there won't be no dropout rate, because once they sign up for housing now, their housing assignment will be agreed upon, and they will not be able to drop out.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, because we're going to be 100% next semester, we know that already. Unless another pandemic comes up, but right now we're going 100%, 85%. So yeah, we're gonna be like Florida.
Well, I know that we're thrilled that you are going to continue this program. We get that it was a Band-Aid fix for something that we had never encountered before, on our campuses, and we were able to spin it up quickly for you and build it in a way that it worked for the pandemic. But it sounds like you're continuing on because you like all of the other features that came with the online training.
I was just amazed on and this is, I mean, it is a plug for you, but it's not meant to be, but on the time frame that when I was told that we're going 100% online and I cannot do training in person, on how fast we were able to put this together and to be able to deliver this before a student moved into campus. I was really amazed.
Yeah, and the time crunch we were dealing with, Sandy can vouch for this. We were on the phone, whether it was phone calls, Zoom, at least 3-4 days a week, just to come up with a brainstormed idea to make sure that this worked. And for them, it's kudos to them, because I can't thank them enough, because the quality of work, the people that work for them, outstanding.
Thank you.
Completely outstanding.
Thank you so much. But you guys were amazing to work with too. It's great to work with people who care. And the only reason Alive Tech took on this initiative in the first place with the center was because we heard so many sad stories about students dying or suffering, you know, such terrible burns. We wanted to do what we could to get the education out there, because it really boils down to knowing what to do, you know, in the heat of the moment. And we're hoping that this training touches a lot more lives and saves a lot more lives. So kudos to you for caring so much and really wanting to deliver the highest quality training to your students. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have 2 more poll questions. On average, how many hours do students get trained on fire safety each year where you are? So we want to know where you are. How many hours do you think, on average, would a student get? We understand freshmen, incoming freshmen, are going to get a little bit more. And then, of course, you know, your seniors might not get as much. But on average, how many hours do you think they get each year? And there we go. Up to an hour is the majority. 1 to 2 hours would, you know, somewhere between up to an hour and 2 hours would be the majority of what you all answered. Some of you are doing it up to 4 hours, so that's great. And the last poll question, do you think your campus allows a sufficient budget for fire safety training? It is one of the #1 complaints we hear when we do the center's forum each November. We'd love to do something like this, but we just simply are not given a budget. Or do you think you have a sufficient budget to do what you need to do in general, whether it has anything to do with Alive Tech or online training? Do you have a budget, and is it sufficient at your campus or university?
That's an open-ended question.
It is, but either people are going to say, yeah, you know, we get a budget, or they're going to say, no, they don't give us any money. We can't do what we need to do.
There you go.
And some of you aren't even privy to budget information, which makes it hard for you to help to plan new programming if you don't know if there's money available. So, okay, we will make sure that we send these poll results to you through our follow-up efforts. We wanted to thank you again for joining us. We hope that you learned from Montclair State's study. And if you have questions for us, we've all provided individual emails. I just want to take a moment while you're thinking about questions, because we're going to take questions, to consider joining the center today. It's only $50. And Kathy, are you ready to talk to them a little bit about membership, and then we'll go into questions?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks. Thanks, Sandy and Bobby and John. If you're not a member of the center, just take a look at our website at myccfs.org. As Sandy mentioned, membership is $50 per person per year. And we also have institutional memberships for, in case you have more than one person in your department, there's some discount there. We also offer discounts on trainings and events, free webinars for members, free campus coffee break, a new 15-minute kind of technology type webinar that we're doing. access to network and our list serve and our discussion groups online. Members problem solve on that listserv network quite a bit. Free access to post and look for jobs in our job board and much more. But we're running, we've got 10 minutes and we've got quite a few questions. So do you want me to start on that?
Sure,
Okay.
we're ready.
First question, is this available for pre-kindergarten through grade 12?
Oh, wow. No, not currently. The only course that Alive Tech has is for the university student, college or university level student. But we're always interested in talking about those types of projects. I know that Alive Tech was involved with the mayor. We've been involved in a lot of different fire safety initiatives, educational initiatives. And we have a program right now through the mayor's office of DC, where we have developed curriculum for after school employees who can deliver some of the safety education for fire specifically. But we don't have anything online ready to go for the young guys. If that's something that you'd like to talk more about, give me a shout at info@prevent.zone, and I'll be happy to set up a call and we can talk about it.
Next question, is this training appropriate for a non-residential environment? Because we are a graduate school, my students do not live on campus, but in the event of a fire, I need to get faculty, staff, and students out of the building safely.
Now, that's a great question, and I will have to say yes, it's highly appropriate. It is built for both on-campus and off-campus students, and I would have to argue that the off-campus students probably need more fire education training because there are not as many safety systems in place in your fraternity houses, in your off-campus housing, apartments, etc. So I would have to say that it's probably needed more for those off-campus students than it's even needed for our on-campus students. We wrote the course purposely to make sure that it applied to both types of students.
Thank you. Here's another. This is an awesome tool to document fire safety training. I would like a copy to review.
Okay, great. Info@prevent.zone is the best email to reach us, and we'll get you set up with a demo right away.
Hey, Kath, before you go on, the last question before this, they might have been talking about in the academic world and actually in academic buildings. And our next phase is actually going to roll this out to possibly our academic buildings also to have
okay.
students. I think that's where they might be going to. And so I believe, yes, it can go to academic buildings for the faculty and staff.
That's a great point, and thanks for picking up on that. Certainly, I mean, most of this information is still going to be the same, but even for those students who don't live on site or on campus, we would want them to have the entire training. So not only when they're on campus or off campus, they would know what's safe. Most likely, they're going to get some safety training in the science buildings or, chemistry labs, that type of thing. But in most cases, that's right. It's just going to be a fire drill, and that's going to be the end of their training in most situations.
So we don't. I mean, in our school, we don't have any off-campus housing or fraternity sororities, but it is very easy adoptable as long as you have the floor plan of the house. It's all that matters is just drawing up a floor plan or an exit route, and it's the same materials, just giving them the floor plans, and then what you want them to do and how the exit plan goes, and the do's and don'ts are all Word documents that you can plug in, I believe.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Bobby and Sandy. Do you see this program working well for an online university that only has a small office staff on site? Can the program be adapted for more of an office type environment?
I think we just answered that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question is,
notice that there's a lot of, sorry, Kathy, there's a lot of terminology that says in your home as opposed to in your dorm room. Because so really it It is built for fire safety in general. However, it is specifically tailored and, talks to that college student. It could be adapted for workplace, and it could be adapted to make sure that the policies that you really want them to know, that could be adapted very easily. But when they go home at night, wherever they put their head, that's where we want them to understand their escape routes.
Right, so the little difference is that, excuse me, if they email me or John, we can send them a copy of our policies on our website are for, we have policies for our residence halls, and we also have policies for our faculty and staff and their responsibilities, and when you're in an academic building. So it all talks about exiting the building during a fire alarm and what to do. The do's and don'ts in the office building is a lot different than what you can have in a resident hall. But for the most part, the evacuation plan is basically the same. So it's just that part of it will be almost the same.
Okay. We still have quite a few more questions. So how
I
flexible
can
is
talk fast.
how flexible is the training to address new trends in prohibited items or other items needing attention between contract periods?
Well, all of those documents are a simple new upload. So it's very flexible.
Does the program allow for use of local campus photos to personalize the training?
Absolutely. I mean, we mostly use evacuation plans, but we did also want to look into if you wanted to like put in staging areas through like Google Earth photography. You can definitely do that in terms of stairwell locations if you wanted to provide that in PDF,
Nice.
easily adaptable.
Nice. Is the program geared towards on-campus housing only, or does it have off-campus housing options?
Yep, we answered that sort of earlier, and it does. We wanted to make sure that all students would be addressed and get the training that they need.
Next one is, how do you handle evacuations?
I think that's for you guys.
Yeah.
So in the program, they have the downloads of our actual floor plans, our staging areas by building, what building they actually reside in. So when they do their online, their actual building comes up. John?
Yeah, and with that, we did implement with that satellite photography for staging areas of the building, and the one obvious concern was evacuating 6 feet apart. That was one of the questions that was answered with us. But thankfully, with the amount of students that we actually had residing when they got to the staging area, there was a lot of significant room to provide when we actually physically showed them that. And in terms of evacuations of people, some of the RAs did actually reach out to me via Zoom just to confirm, just walking through with their students on their floor.
So when they sign on to the program, they actually get a floor plan of the building they are residing in. I don't know if that was clear when we went through this, but it's customizable to the room that they are in. They pull up their building. So we have the 70 buildings online. They pull up their building that they reside in, and it comes up with their floor plans. Okay, Kathy.
Okay. And we're nearing 2 o'clock, but we've got a few more questions. Billy, if it's okay with you, typically what I do is tell people in the interest of their time, they can hang up if they want to, but we are recording this session and we will send and post the recorded session with Q&As on our website, on the CCFS website, and I think on the Apple website as well. So can I go on with the rest of the questions?
Yes.
You can have 2 more minutes. After that, the questions that we don't get to will be sent to the presenters, and they can reach out directly to the person asking the question.
Okay. So the next question is, does Prevent Zone or CCFS produce general fire evacuation training videos. And as far as CCFS goes, we produce evacuation training through fire safety tips and posters and that kind of thing. Not necessarily a video, but as a member of our website, you can log in and ask that question to the other 600 members that we have, and see what they produce as well in their own campuses. And Sandy, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Sure. I mean, we're a custom content development company, so we would work with you on your vision for that and help you the best we could.
Okay. In the District of Columbia, we are required to train only staff. Normally this translates to RAs, facilities and faculty who have been who have had fire-related course offerings. Excuse me. This works, but I'd like to see it for anyone who has responsibility for evacuation or other frontline personnel.
Nope, that's very interesting that that's your approach, and we would be happy to talk to you a little bit more about how this course might be adapted for you.
All right, and I've got one last question, and then a few people came back and said, thank you, this was great. And they want your information, Sandy, so we'll make sure they get that. The last question, with multiple buildings and floor plans, did students have to select their building and also their room to view their location?
They're building.
They're building, yeah, and their general floor plan displayed their room. Every room was displayed just on a basic floor plan, but every building was identifiable in terms of where they lived.
Okay.
It's just like a hotel layout. You know, it's a line, it's CAD drawn, line drawn.
Great. Well then, Billy, I'll turn it back to you for the closing slide, and it looks like we made it within just about an hour.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our presenters who took time from their busy schedules to be with us. And as always, to our attendees, thank you very much for your time. So until next time, be safe, stay healthy, and have a great week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.